Hey guys, welcome back to This Homeschooling Naturopath. If you are new here, my name is Hannah and I am a homeschooling mom of 3 little girls who are 10, 8, and 6, and I'm also a fully qualified naturopath living and working in New Zealand. On this channel I share content related to homeschooling, homemaking, motherhood, as well as some naturopathic info throughout some of my content here. Today I am coming to you from the floor of my bedroom due to the way the light is shining into the house, and I have got some pretty exciting stuff to share with you guys in relation to books. So if you want to hear and see about all of the books that we are going to be reading as read alouds, as well as what books I have assigned my older two daughters for their own personal reading this year, stay tuned. Okay, so I've just gotta address the lighting situation. I'm sorry. I think this is the first video I ever filmed sitting on the floor in my bedroom like this. Very unprofessional. But I literally cannot sit anywhere else in the house. All the kids are home. They're all taking over the living room space, and I considered kicking them out just to film this video, but I don't feel like that's very fair. Anyways, today I wanted to share with you guys these little documents that I have created in order to track our reading this year. In my book reviews that I shared, well, it was my 2023 book reviews, but I kind of posted it, I think, at the start of this year. I'll link it down below if you're interested. I mentioned in that video that I thought I was keeping really good track of the books that we were reading, both as read alouds and also the books that I was assigning my daughters to read. But when it came time to film that video, I realized that I had not kept very good track of all of the books that we were reading, and so there were books missing, and I just want to keep track of the books that we're reading, mainly so that we don't reread them, and just so that I know, you know? So anyways, over on Canva, I created these beautiful little documents. This was actually a template that I just edited to suit my needs and what I wanted. And this one is our read aloud tracker. So this is all of the books that I intend to read aloud this year. And then each of my girls, these are now currently a little bit messy because they've been using them. But each of my girls have their, well, no, not each of them. I only made trackers for my older two daughters. My youngest daughter does not have assigned reading for this year. She's only 6 years old, and she's not shown any interest in having her own reading tracker situation. So, you know, if she asks me why she doesn't have one of these, then I'll happily give her one. But my older two have been using these now for over 6 weeks, and my youngest does not care. So anyways, my older two daughters both have this assigned reading tracker with all of their books that I want them to read personally throughout this homeschool year. And of course, they read a lot of other stuff as well, books that they're interested in, books they find at the library, all types of things. But these are the books that I have assigned them, and largely the books that I assign are books that go along with either our history or our science units. So that'll be reflected quite a lot in the books that I'm going to show you guys. Some of them are just little fun ones, but for the most part, the books that I pick largely reflect either the era in time that we're learning about in history or a science topic type of thing. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to start with our read aloud tracker. We love read alouds in our home. I love reading aloud to my children. And I mean, we still read a lot of picture books and things like that, which I obviously don't track because it would be in the hundreds and it would be kind of ridiculous to keep a list of the picture books we read, but I do like to keep track at least of the chapter books that we read. So a lot of the books that I read as read alouds are books that go along with our book club. I've made a full video, my top 10 tips on how to start your own book club, and if you follow along over here, you probably know that I have a book club that I put together with our homeschool group, and so a lot of the books on our read aloud list are books that I chose for book club, and then some of them are also just books that I want to read to my girls just for us. So I'll let you guys know which books are book club books and which books are not. A lot of the books that we read for book club are library books. In fact, the majority of the books that I'm about to list to you, I don't even have on hand. I have some, and I'm going to show you the ones that I do have on hand. If I do not have them, I will put up a picture somewhere here for you guys to have some visual reference. This is our read alouds that I intend on reading this 2024 school year. Read aloud chapter books, at least. Okay, the first book that we started with this homeschool year was One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams Garcia. We did not finish that book, so I don't know how it ends, and I didn't give it a star rating because I couldn't bring myself. It got really boring and repetitive, and I was no longer enjoying reading it, and so we stopped and I took it back to the library. So I don't know how that book ends, but we read that. We didn't finish it. The next book, which was our first book club book for this year, was Holes by Louis Sachar. One of the all-time greats, probably my favorite book I've ever read, and the whole book club loved it. The next book that we read was Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo. This wasn't my favorite book, you guys, and nor was it the book club's favorite book, but anyways, we read that as well. Now, the books we have yet to read, which I plan on reading, which are part of our book club: Mr. Popper's Penguins by Richard and Florence Atwater. The girls and I just started this yesterday, actually, and we're really enjoying it so far. We're listening to it on Audible. That's why I don't have the book to hold up and show you guys. It's kind of tricky with our book club because there's so many of us, and there's the libraries here. We live in a very small city. There are several libraries around, but they obviously all share books between them. So when 10 families try to get the same book out at the same time, it makes it a little bit tricky, but that's okay. I don't mind just listening to the book on Audible anyways. So anyways, Mr. Popper's Penguins, that's what we're reading currently for the month of April. The next book we're going to be reading is The One and Only Ivan by Catherine Applegate. Oh, I read this book by myself before choosing it for the book club, and I loved it. The first book that I do have to show you guys from book club is E.B. White's Stuart Little. The next book, which I don't have, is The Borrowers by Mary Norton, classic. The next one is The Tale of Despero by Kate DiCamillo as well. And then I've got, not this one, The Trumpet and the Swan by E.B. White will be next in line. Also going to get that from the library. And then The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I think I've spelled that wrong on my paper. It's Frances Hodgson Burnett. Secret Garden. Okay, and then finally, to round off our book club for the year, we'll be reading Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis. And those are all of our book club books that I have. And then other read alouds that I really want to read to my girls this year that are totally unrelated to book club are as follows. I have got The Shakespeare Stealer by Gary Blackwood. I'm really excited to read this. We are studying Shakespeare. Excuse me. My nose is like going funny as I'm talking. We are studying Shakespeare this year a little bit more in depth, and so I thought this would be a really cool sort of fictional book to read alongside of our Shakespeare study. Next up, I have an I Survived book. This is I Survived the American Revolution. We are in Story of the World Volume 3 and studying a lot more American history than we ever have before, so I really wanted to incorporate this guy. As well as The Magic Treehouse, Revolutionary War on Wednesday. Love. You won't be surprised if you know The Magic Treehouse. Civil War on Sunday as well. And then Thanksgiving on Thursday. And these will be some, read alouds. So these are very, very, very kid friendly. My older daughters could certainly read these books on their own, but I do enjoy the fictional, fun, easy to read novel like this to read as a read aloud as well. And then Sign of the Beaver. Sign of the Beaver by Elizabeth George Spear. I actually tried to read this to my girls last year when we were studying Living Off the Land by Gather Around Homeschool, and it was a really big failure. It was a whole thing. I think I actually talked about it in a book review that I did about halfway through last year. I'll try and find that and link that down below. There was a part in it that just made me really uncomfortable, and I didn't want to read it anymore, so I stopped. But since then, I have read it, and it's not weird. So yeah, we're gonna give this another go as a read aloud in our homeschool this year. Where am I up to? Okay, another book I do not have is The Witch of Blackbird Pond, also by Elizabeth George Spear. I started reading that by myself last year to see if it was suitable for a book club book, and I really loved it. I didn't feel like it was good for the whole book club, but I want to read it to my girls, so we're gonna do that. Next up, I have got this one here, Jungle Doctors Africa by Paul White. I thought this would just be a really nice, fun one to incorporate, educational, a lot of learning to come from this, and I thought it would just be really nice for a change up. There is also in Story of the World Volume 3, we're going to be talking a little bit about Africa, so I wanted to see a different side. Story of the World Volume 3 covers slavery and how all of that occurred, and I really wanted to do like more of an in-depth jump and in-depth unit study on Africa itself, on all of the beautiful history of Africa pre-colonization days, and learn a lot more about their different cultures and different languages and all of that. So yeah, anyways, I thought this would be really nice for that reason. Where am I? Oh, I've got The Magic School Bus Expedition Down Under. Story of the World also touches on Australia. We've actually read this book before, I think about 3 years ago when we first started homeschooling. So yeah, we're going to read it again. Story of the World Volume 3 does touch just lightly on Africa. Did I say Africa before? I meant Australia. Yeah, so anyways. Yeah, we're going to be reading this again to learn about some more of the animals, although my girls are pretty well versed in Australian animals. I've also got Carry On Mr. Bowditch by Jean Lee Latham? Jean Lee Latham. Wow, that's actually a really nice name. Yeah, Carry On Mr. Bowditch. Again, this goes along with our history. And then finally, the final read aloud that I intend to read aloud to my children this homeschool year is by The Great Horn Spoon by Sid Fleshman. I've heard a lot of great reviews about this. Its dust cover's coming off. And I'm really excited to read it to my girls. So that rounds out all of my read alouds that I plan on reading to my girls this year. And I'm really looking forward to updating you guys with my end of year book reviews to let you know how those books went. Okay, moving on now, I'm going to start with my oldest daughter's assigned reading tracker. These are all of the books that I have assigned to her for this homeschool year. Like I said, she does a lot of reading on her own. She's really enjoying graphic novels at the moment. Yeah, but these are the books that I expect her to read, and we've kind of been doing some little book reports here and there as well, so that's something also that I'm incorporating. But anyways, I'll get into it. Again, I do not have all of the books on hand, so I will put the books up somewhere around me so that you guys can have a little visual aid. The first book that I assigned her was The Courage of Sarah Noble. She has already read this. She really enjoyed it. It was a really quick, easy read for her, and she liked it. The next book, which she is going through currently, is Miracles on Maple Hill. This one was recommended by Gather Round's botany unit to kind of go along with botany, but it also sort of is perfect in line with the history that we're studying right now. So this has been really good. It's kind of what am I trying to say? It's like Little House on the Prairie vibes, basically, which she enjoys. She really likes Little House on the Prairie. I think she is finding this slightly boring at the moment, but I want her to read it nonetheless. Okay, next up, she's got What is the Declaration of Independence? We are studying early American history right now, and she is also doing U.S. government with me on her own, and so this is a really important book for her to cover. Also recommended by Gather Round's Botany is this book here. Oh, I didn't mention who the author was of Miracles on Maple Hill. The author is Virginia Sorensen for that book. And then this one, Where the Red Fern Grows, is written by Michael C. Harris. And again, this one I think is going to be very, very similar to Miracles on Maple Hill. Pretty much the same time period. And she wasn't overly enthusiastic about this. She wasn't feeling well last week, and so I gave her a choice, you know, to lie in bed and listen to an audiobook. So she picked a book on Audible, and she was choosing between these two, and she chose this one overall because she did not really like the sound of this one. But hey, she's going to be reading it anyway. So that's that. Next up, she has got Who Was George Washington? Escape from Botany Bay, and this is by Gerald and Loretta Hausman. It's reflecting. This goes along with Story of the World, Volume 3, in regard to Australia. So I'm really interested to hear about that one. What is the Constitution? Again, we're studying her and I U.S. government as well as early American history. Next up, she has got written by Catherine Patterson, this book here called Liddy, and I believe this was recommended by Story of the World Volume 3, talking about the time period sort of around the Industrial Revolution when children were expected to work in factories and what have you. So this is kind of Liddy's story about her factory work during that time period. Next up, Who Was Abraham Lincoln? The Birchbark House by Louise Edrick. She's actually already, she's about a quarter of the way through this. She started reading it. She wasn't overly enthused about it, but yeah, that's why she hasn't finished it. If she really likes a book, she'll finish it within a day. Otherwise, she'll just continuously stop and read tiny pages here and there. But yeah, there's that. Next up, she's actually already read this. She's completed this. She hasn't given it any stars on her sheet though. But this is Baldy the American Eagle, published by The Good and the Beautiful. She really enjoyed this. It's honestly it's very small. It's kind of like a little biography. I don't think biography is the right word, but it's just literally a story of the American bald eagle, like kind of what they do, and you know, it's meant to teach them a lot about the bald eagle. She enjoyed that. She read that super quick, but she did say in the end it was kind of boring because that's all it was. But anyway, and then all of the rest of the books that I have there, including that Baldy the American Eagle one, are all from The Good and the Beautiful. So that is what I'm going to share with you now. Her next assigned reader is Sunshine Rose, and this is written by John Y. Beatty. Okay, I have got Syrup by Margaret G. Otto. We're out of order. Oh no, it's out of order. Found it. Melissa Across the Fence by Augusta Hewell Seaman. The Susie and Lizzie box set by May Justice. Okay, next up, Calico by Ethel Calvert Phillips. Number 11, Poplar Street by Frances Fitzpatrick Wright, as well as book 2, Back to Poplar Street. Here's Juggins by Amy Wentworth Stone. And then Tino and the Typhoon by Alice Gear Kelsey. So there's that. And then of course she has her The Good and the Beautiful readers that go alongside of The Good and the Beautiful Language Arts Level 4 as well as Level 5. So her 2 readers that go alongside Level 4 are these books right here. They each have several stories within them. This is the the contents for the Level 4 personal reader, and then this one is just a book of biographies, which again, there are several people in here with their biographies, and she has really enjoyed reading these, particularly the biographies. She really, really likes some of the people in here and the things that they went through throughout their lives. And then once she finishes her Level 4, she will move straight on to her Level 5 this year, because we started her Level 4 about halfway through last year, so I expect her to be finished with that in the coming, like, probably like next 6 weeks, I'm assuming, and then she'll go straight to level 5, and these are her readers for level 5. She has got Marjorie, Chico of the Andes, The Clockmaker's Son, and Captured Words. And that is all of the assigned reading that I have for my 10-year-old. Again, she is 10, she'll be 11 toward the end of this school year. She really loves reading, and her reading level is quite far beyond her age. We recently did a shoal, I think it's shoal if I'm remembering correctly. Shoal? Schnoll? I can't remember. But we did that, and I know that's not a very accurate, reading assessment test, but she was able to read every single word on there within a very short amount of time, and I'm estimating that her reading level is probably about 13, 12, 13, 14 sort of reading age. So she can definitely read a lot further beyond the age that she is. But anyways, I'm gonna share now the books for my 8-year-old. Okay, so the assigned reading that I have assigned for my 8-year-old is as follows. I'm gonna do the same thing, you guys, with the pictures. I also assigned her The Courage of Sarah Noble by Alice Dalgish, which I forgot to mention the author's name before, but that's the author, Alice Dalgish. And she also already read this book, so it's been returned to the library. She also really enjoyed it. It's quite a quick short read, like I said before, and she didn't mind the story. She did find it slightly boring, but it wasn't the worst book that she read. She didn't give it a star rating though, I see. Okay, her next book is, just like my oldest daughter, she has also got assigned Who Was George Washington, which I don't have 2 of those books. I just picked that book off my oldest daughter's pile. So they'll obviously have to coordinate when they're going to read those, which they did fine with The Courage of Sarah Noble. They weren't like arguing about it excessively. They did have some words about it, but yeah, I shut that down pretty quick. Anyway, and then next she has Who Was Abraham Lincoln as well. Her next book I assigned was a Geronimo Stilton, and this is Down and Out, Down Under, obviously a book about Australia. We really like Geronimo Stilton in our house. It's fun, it's engaging, it's colorful, it has a lot of cool writing and different colored words and all of that. It's quite easy to read and it's quite quick, so she really enjoyed that, and she already read this book. She gave it a 2 out of 3 stars, so that's good. The next book I assigned her, which I just picked up from the library the other day for 50 cents, which I thought was super neat, is this Time Hunters Cowboy Showdown. It's not really relevant to our American history. I guess it kind of is, but hey, it was 50 cents. And we have read quite a few of the Time Hunters books before when we were studying Ancient Egypt, Greece, and Rome. I'm pretty sure they all had Time Hunters books that like went along with those topics. So I have read Time Hunters as read-alouds in our home before. So when I saw this and saw that it was 50 cents, I just bought it and I added it to her assigned reading collection because I thought it would be something fun for her. It's a pretty standard, it'll be good for her. It won't be too hard to read. Very similar layout to the Magic Treehouse books. So yeah, there's that. Next up, she has got Sid Fleshman's I'm holding it too high. McBroom's Wonderful 1 Acre Farm. This one is slightly harder. It looks super, easy. It's a little bit deceiving because it's actually a lot, the words are quite a lot smaller than the books that she's used to reading. So yeah, we'll see how she goes with that book. And then the next book, which she has misplaced, she started reading this, and I'm assuming it's probably under her bed. It is a Thea Stilton book, and it is Mystery on the Orient Express. Thea Stilton, I believe it's Geronimo's sister or cousin. I can't remember if Thea Stilton is his sister or his cousin? Someone down below will know, surely. Is Thea Stilton Geronimo Stilton's cousin or sister? Because I can't remember at the moment. Comment down below if you know. So Mystery on the Orient Express, obviously, most adults probably know the story, but the Thea Stilton is a very child-friendly mystery story. Nobody has died. I think it was an artwork that was stolen, if I'm remembering correctly, but they were, you know, trying to solve a mystery, which I thought my 8-year-old would enjoy, and she was enjoying it until she lost it. So we probably need to find that. The next book she has got on her list, another Geronimo Stilton, and this is Flight of the Red Bandit. And again, I kind of thought American history-ish, cowboy-ish vibes there. Next up, she has got Good Morning Gorilla, one of the Magic Treehouse books by Mary Pope Osborne. We are going to be reading, like I shared with you guys before, The One and Only Ivan in our book club, and I thought she could read this alongside of The One and Only Ivan Read Aloud that we're going to be doing. And then next up, I have got these two books here, which she's actually already read. These are Sheroes, and they are written by Christine Platt, and I got them in a 4-pack a couple of years ago, a long time ago. She has already read through both of these. They're just very, very thin, but they're very quick, easy to read biographies about these women. And they just kind of break down some major events that we know about in the women's lives and the incredible things that they accomplished. So she had Sacagawea and Harriet Tubman. She read both of these almost immediately when I gave her her list, and she rated Harriet Tubman 3 stars and Sacagawea 2 stars. So that's pretty cool. I highly, highly recommend these books. The 4-pack came with these two, Joan of Arc, as well as Cleopatra, and they have been like invaluable in our home. My girls constantly go back to them. They're excellent. Okay, and then next up, all of the books I'm going to list now are from the Good and the Beautiful library. Some of these go along with her language arts program. She's doing the Good and the Beautiful Language Arts Level 3. These are her 4 readers that go along with that program. She is currently reading through Timothy on the 10th floor of the 10th floor. And we've been enjoying this. It's like a mystery kind of book. It's been pretty interesting. Okay, next up we have The Journey of 5, The Kingdom of Kind, and Heather and the Highland Pony. We were just, this past week, we were out on a foraging walk with our homeschool group. We have a mama in our group who's like an expert on foraging and finding food in nature and fungi and all of that. And as we were walking around, one of the moms who also does The Good and the Beautiful, she was like, oh, have you guys read Heather on the Highland Pony yet for language arts? And I said, oh no, we haven't gotten there yet. She's like, oh, well, in it, there's a woman who takes the kids around to forage for food in the forest. She was saying that her children were highly reminded of this book as we were walking around doing our own foraging. So that was pretty cool. And I think whenever we get to this, my daughter will most likely bring up that foraging walk again as well. Next up, we have book 1 and book 2 of The Crooked Creek Ranch. Boom, boom, boom. We've got Whose Treehouse? Whose Treehouse from The Good and the Beautiful. I haven't mentioned any of the authors. This is by Jane Castle. These ones are both by Amy Dubrow. The next book we have is The Journey of Ching Lai, and this is written by Eleanor Frances Lattimore. The next one I have is Kidlick's Kayak, and this is by Terry Shannon. And then finally, the last book I have to show you guys for her assigned reading is Ning's Pony and Other Stories from Around the World. There are several stories in here to go through. I hope that's focusing. And they are all stories from children from around the world. And that is just published by The Good and Beautiful. I feel like all those stories are probably written by different authors. I'm not 100% sure who the author is of all of those books. But that is it, you guys. That is all of the books that I have to show you. the read alouds that I intend to read this 2024 school year, as well as the assigned reading that I have assigned my older two daughters for this school year. I probably will come up with some other assigned reading that I want them to cover this school year. Who Was Marco Polo? I just picked up recently at a book sale, and so I think I might add that to their assigned reading list as well, just because we have been talking about Marco Polo lately in our history, and so I might add that to both of their lists as well. I don't know, I'll see. So I realize that probably looks like a lot of books, but keep in mind that we have the whole school year to read all of these. I know that my daughters were super excited when I gave them their assigned reading lists, and they kind of wanted to get started on them immediately and almost make it like a competition to see who could read all of the books as quickly as possible, but ultimately that is not the purpose of assigned reading, and I told them that they need to kind of chill and, you know, not rush it, because they do have the entire year to read all of these books. So it's definitely not a race to see who can read all of their books first. But anyways, I hope that gives you guys some ideas on some books that you might like to assign to your kiddos in your homeschool, or some books that you might like to try and read aloud to your kids this year as well. Highly, highly recommend doing read alouds. It is such a blessing in our homeschool, and I really appreciate that time, and I think my kids appreciate it too. Hopefully one day they'll look back and appreciate it anyways, even if they don't right now. Alright, you guys, that's all I have to share today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!